Okay, let's get started. Hi everyone, this is Aniket D'Souza, and in today's Tuesday Talk session, we're going to look at how I built a COVID-19 tracker, a live COVID-19 tracker using Google Sheets and Google Data Studio. So, the whole idea about why I wanted to do this is because I wanted to show you the kind of integrations that you can do or the kind of power that you have using Google Sheets as well as using Google Data Studio and how it can actually, how you can actually use it to your advantage, right? So that's basically why I wanted to do or why I wanted to cover this topic in one of these Tuesday sessions that I do. The Tuesday Talk session is a weekly session, so in case you're looking for ideas on digital front, all you have to do is subscribe to the session. All right, so subscribe to the YouTube channel. So let's get started right away. We're not going to waste a lot of time. So first, let me just pull up what you're going to actually see and what you get at the end of the video, and then I will go into how I've actually got it done. Right. So this is basically what you get at the end. So this is one of the fact sheet kind of a report that I had created. Okay. So this is country level list for active cases of COVID. Now, what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of put out the data that's out there, but I didn't want to kind of update each of these fields on a daily basis, right? So it becomes extremely difficult for you to manually do this method and then create an infographic, just get one infographic done so that that is something that you can circulate. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to keep this for scale, right? So I don't want to actually keep it only limited to every time I design it. The first time I actually looked at it, I had an idea, I had conceptualized an idea, and then I thought saying, let me just put this into action. And then when I was doing it into action, I was like, if I were to update this on a daily basis, then I would actually go mad, right? So how do I basically do it without going mad? And that's when it dawned on me saying that, hey, you know what, I can use Google Sheets and Google Data Studio to actually combine both points, right? And to basically take away all that madness, try to look for scale and see if there is actually a possibility of doing this. So let's get started. Let's go where I went. So this is basically what I ended up creating. Okay, so then now let's look at what is Google Data Studio. I'll give you a quick understanding of what is Google Data Studio. So Google Data Studio, what it does is it helps you build charts, it helps you build presentations with live data. Okay, so the live data can come from anywhere. It can come from whether it is Google Analytics or any Google data point, or there could be external resources. There are several resources that you can actually connect to with Google Data Studio, and like you can even bring in Google Ads data. Like you can have a dashboard created out here just so that it can actually generate a report on a daily basis, right? So, and you will be able to see live data. The whole idea of using Google Data Studio is to create a dashboard. Now, the way I have done it is I've tried to keep it more like a PDF, a PDF that can be updated on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. I can do that call. So you can see over here, the last update for this particular report was done on 8th of June at 7:17 p.m. It's currently 8 p.m. And today is 9th of June. So I did this update 2 days ago. And this is basically what you can see. So you can see there are active cases, there is so many confirmed, so many recovered, and active cases and population size and active to population. So I'll show you how did I actually create this, right? So what do you actually need for something like this? You need to identify saying that, okay, I need all of this data to come interestingly into this particular block. And once it comes into the particular block, I want those each of these data points to automatically change from a source destination, right? So what I did was I picked up a Google Sheet. Okay, and I have always been using Google Sheet and Google Advanced Formulas or so. So what I did is I kind of figured out where can I actually get COVID-19 cases which are automatically updated on a table, maybe, right, to do my own calculation. So everyone talks about COVID-19 and everyone talks about how many confirmed cases there are and how many of them are recovered and how many of them are deaths. Okay, so I didn't want to basically look at the deaths part of it. I wanted to create one which is to do with how many are active cases, right? And no one actually talks about number of active cases openly. I have no reason, I have no idea why they don't talk about active cases, because the active cases are the ones which are creating the problem. Currently, it's more like a count. Like this, at this rate, if you basically keep common flu, and then common flu would have had a huge count, right? Because it's been happening since over centuries. So maybe like, like couple of several years, right? So if you're looking at the flu, then obviously that's going to be a very different case. But you're looking at compounded data. You're not looking at the active data. And for active data, what I decided was I needed to basically create an active data and an active to population. But this is not a data that you get elsewhere. You don't get it. So you have to actually create it. Now, in order to create it, what I realized was if I need active cases, I just need to basically have confirmed minus recovered is equal to active cases, right? And population size, I can get it. It's a one-time calculation. You basically put that population size, and you can obviously update this also. But for this example, or for this particular sheet, I did not use that approach. So then what I did was I looked up on active to population, just so that you can understand, saying that if there are 16 people who are active in Vietnam, then what would be it active to the population size, which means what is it, how likely is it that you would basically get infected, right? So I wanted to add that as well based on the population. So that was basically the logic. And let's get into the deeper parts. Now, if you see all these elements that I have written over here, so maybe this COVID-19 fact check report, country level list, this particular description, the updated here, and then you see these small icons here, and then you see this background which I have of a COVID virus. So, and you see this particular block of black band with the text copy on top of it. Now all of these are manual. Now you can actually do that using Google Data Studio, because Data Studio is more of a presentation format, or it's I can say it's a live data presentation format. So let's say you look at a PowerPoint presentation. What you have to do is you end up putting up all the data manually, right? So you generally create, let's say you're creating a pie chart, or you're creating a bar chart. You end up basically doing all of these things manually, right? So when you do it manually, what happens is every time there is some kind of change happening elsewhere, or in some part of your organization, you want that data to be manually entered into that presentation, which means that every time you have to ask for, give me the updated presentations and stuff like that. So what Google Data Studio allows you to do is they can update it there, and all you have to do from your end is click on refresh, because that's how easy it is. Now the same process is actually available even in Google Slides, but what they don't have is the data integration part of it. So Google Slides also you can create charts, but then the data resides in Google Sheet right there itself. But however, when it comes to Google Data Studio, you can integrate the data from a vast number of sources, and that's the beauty of Google Data Studio. So let's get into that further. So now I have just explained to you how Google Data Studio looks when it comes to the front viewing, right? If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments. All right. Let me just head over to the workings of this. So I'm going to switch to the edit mode, and this is how it actually looks under the edit mode. So I'm just clicking on edit. Yeah. So this is what you see under the edit mode. You can see that there is, I have my text, so I've added the text over here, and this is all manual. So very similar to whether you're adding a Google slide and you're putting presentations, everything is here just like that. All the options are out here, so you don't have to worry and wonder about, how do you actually end up putting images and all of that. These are all manually added. So you can see that, like if I select the background over here and I can actually move it, and then there is a blank background here, right? So it's as simple. It's just a presentation tool. So that's basically how it's added. Now the only beauty over here with Google Data Studio is not these text elements and all of that I've added, but it's basically the data table, right? So I'm going to click on the data table, and you can see that each of these icons I have added manually. That's the reason why it shows like that. So I kind of have added these manually. So it's more like a one-time task. And after that, this particular data, which is there, which fluctuates on a daily basis, is added dynamically, which means it's not coming from here. I have not entered this particular thing manually. So where have I entered it from? So what I've done is I've integrated the data from here, So I've created something like this. I've pulled that data from this particular link that you can see. Let me just reset the size so you can see it. Yeah, so you can see over here the Chrome window was at 75, um, at a magnification of 75%. So let me just so I just had to change that. Okay, so let's look at this again. I'm clicking on this, and you can see that I'm pulling it from something called a stat viral. Now that was basically initially the concept that I created, right? And then I have all of these pointers, which is country, confirmed, recovered, population size, active to population. All of these are available fields which are in this particular data point, right? And then that is basically dragged into it, and you can actually end up creating these kind of records, right? So you can actually come here. Now let's see how did I actually do it, right? So you have two parts to it. One is obviously the data, which is dimensions, and then you have metrics. Now, if you have not actually gone through my any of my courses on what are dimensions and metrics, then you will probably not be able to understand or get this idea clearly. But because for that you need to understand Google Analytics, you need to have gone through a course of Google Analytics where they talk about dimensions and metrics. You need to understand what is dimension and metrics. But for those of you who already know, I'm just going to quickly repeat that. Dimensions are basically qualitative terms, things like age, things like gender, things like country. These are all qualitative terms. And metrics are those which are number terms, which means that, let's say, it's the population size, or number of recovered people. So the answer of that particular metric is always going to be numerical. So I will have 316 people recovered. So it's a numerical term, right? Similarly, confirmed people. So confirmed people is 332. So 332 is a numerical. But in, let's say, if I have to say country, then there's a specific country. There is a specific number. Whereas confirmed, recovered, all of this can have endless numbers and can have endless combination. So that comes under metric versus the dimension point. Now let me show you what are the where is this coming from, right? So let's look at that. So I've actually brought this, or I've imported this using so you can see over here, when I go to click add data, I can import data from multiple places. I can import data from Google Analytics, from Google Ads, from Google Sheets, from Campaign Manager. I can upload a file of CSV file. I can upload it from BigQuery, Cloud Spanner, Cloud SQL, and all of these other places that you can see over here. YouTube Analytics, Search Engine Console, all of that, right? So, and I can add it from Facebook, Ad Insights. Think about it. I mean, the possibilities are actually endless from where you can add. You can actually build your own as well in terms of trying to have a connector, right? So you can see over here there are ad and Google Analytics from Supermetrics, and you can actually bring them in all into this particular studio. So there are like a lot of sources that you can actually pull from. So I'm not going to get into deep into this, but I'm going to just show you how I did the COVID tracker. So what I did was simple. Okay, so I have usually, if I have to do it for any digital marketing platform or a social media platform, my team fills a Google Sheet, and from that Google Sheet I can extract the data and do a presentation or make it into a report format for me, just onto this Google dashboard. So what I did was I've actually done the Google Sheet integration, and you can see over here my data source. You can see that I have a couple of other data sources as well, but I've currently only pulled the Google Sheet, which is the specific one which you saw over here, which was called as Stat Viral. Now Stat Viral was basically the old name, now just given something called as a COVID-19 tracker. So this is the sheet which is getting pulled. Okay, ideally this is the sheet that is getting pulled, but this is not the data that is getting pulled. Okay, so there's a difference between the data and the sheet, because of I've been very particular on what data am I actually pulling. Okay, so what I did was I created the add data source. It gave me option of Google Sheet, and then it gave me immediately a pointer asking me, saying that, okay, in this Google Sheet, which sheet do you want to use? And I said I wanted to use sheet number 3. So this is sheet number 3. So this is where you can see all the data which is actually going into my report over here. Okay, so first one part is clear. So I managed to basically do the Google Sheet and then integrate that into the Google Data Studio dashboard, right? So this is basically where is the final sheet. Now how did I actually arrive at this sheet? So I basically took the confirmed and the recovered numbers, So I got these numbers, I got the population size, and this was basically math. So what I did was I just said saying that okay, this one minus recovered, confirmed minus recovered is this, and then I said okay, this data I said okay, just divide the term which is equal to active cases divided by population size into 100. That's the percentage of active to population, and then I just dragged the whole thing. So I immediately got this particular information right here, so no problem at all. It was very easy. Now the bigger question is, how did I get this information, right? So you can see over here it says source C158, and it basically is saying source. So you can see the source over here is basically the source over here as well, which is at the bottom. If you're not able to see this, let me just bring that up over here. So you can see that source is my first sheet. You can see that source is basically here, which is C158. So let me just go into my source, and you can see C158. So C is this, and then 158 is the number at the bottom. So I'm just going to go there, which is 158. Here, Vietnam. You can see that this is 332, right? And you can see that this is 0, this is 16. So this is a math that I have already done over here as well, additionally. So what I've done is I've actually put this the active number of cases here as well. Ideally, it's not required, but I've done it here nevertheless. But just to give you an idea, this is basically how it's taking the data. So it's taking the data from, this is the source sheet. Now, the big challenge, how do I manage this particular sheet, right? So here's what I did. For this, in order to basically get this data, which is the source data, you need to understand that you can actually pull data from any part of the web, any website, okay, directly into Excel with just a line of code, a simple line of code, okay? And I'm going to show you that particular code, which is very interesting. What I've done over here is I'm actually pulling this data from Wikipedia. So if I, even for that matter, even if I copy this or select all of these and just hit delete, it's going to come back right there. Have a look. So I deleted it, it came back. I'm again clicking on delete. You see that it's coming. I'm actually selecting a lot of these pages over here, and I'm just selecting all of these cells. I'm clicking delete. See that? Now active data is basically something that is a calculation, so that's the reason why it does not come, which I can actually bring that back because it's just a cases minus recovered calculation, and I can bring that back. But this is what it is, so I'm able to get this. So how does this part work, right? And in order to do that, what you primarily need is a source where you are actually getting this thing updated, right? And to do that, what I've done is I went to Wikipedia, okay? I look for COVID-19 cases, and I said Wikipedia, so let's look at that. And it has COVID-19 pandemic in India or COVID-19 pandemic around the world. So let's look at that. Let's look at COVID-19 pandemic. So that's a place where you get a lot of information. And over here, as you can see, you get these tables, right? You get these tables, right? So these are the tables that you get. So you can actually go through this particular link, which is the COVID-19 pandemic by country and territory. So you have that, right? And you can see this long list of countries. So in this case, I've taken this list. So you can see here that this is the table. It says worldwide location: United States, Brazil, Russia, UK, India. Now this is what it is. It is COVID-19 pandemic by country and territory. And what I've done is I've just copied this one into my Google Sheet, not each data manually, but through code. And here's what I'm going to show you. It's just a single line of code. And what I've done is I've just taken a link. So this is basically the link that I've taken. I've just copied this link, okay? And I've put it in my first column, which is over here, right? This is the column that I've put it. If I delete this column, all the data just disappears. But if I don't delete this column, then, or this particular data over here, or if I change this even by a little bit, everything just vanishes, okay? So I can show you that. Let me just add L over here, and I hit enter, and all the data is gone, right? So I'm just going to hit Control Z, and all the data is actually going to come back, right? So you can see that, right? And what I've done is I've done an import HTML, which I'm saying that import that particular page, and I put the link over here saying that, okay, import that particular link. And then I said comma, and then I said table, so import that table. So this is basically a table over here, which is this table. And I did not know which particular table it is. So maybe it is the first table or the second table or the third table. I don't know what table it is, but it's for you to find out. And I put one over here because I considered that it to be the first table. So I started typing saying, okay, table number one, table number two, table number three, and I found this data in the table number one itself. And that's how I basically got this. So immediately when I said one, then I had, so if I put two, I get a different amount, different data. All right, I don't know whether there is a data or no. So you can see over here that it says it gives some template and all of that. So what I do is I'm going to just call it table one, and it should load the data automatically, right? And once it is loaded all of this data, then I do a calculation, which is done using the active. I pull it over here in my source sheet. I click on this and I say source Vietnam. So I've picked like 20 countries, 25 countries based on the countries that vocally said, saying that they are extremely great at public health and public health management. So this one also includes the United States, which is somewhere over here at the end, and a lot of countries are actually on top of that. But this is basically I took a random list of countries based on that particular claim that they made, saying that their public health system is great. In fact, US was number one at that point of time. So I used that list, and I created a list like this. So once I did this, I managed to basically take each of this data from this particular source, from each of these places. This was more like a one time, right? And once I did that, I was able to see all of this data neatly organized into my Google Data Studio, which is here. And this automatically got populated over here. So I didn't have to do a lot of work, and I don't continue to have to do a lot of work of manually adding every single figure into a table and into an infographic, because this becomes an infographic, right? And this is a live infographic that can change on a regular basis if I want to. So to give you a simple example, all I have to do on a daily basis right now, or whenever I feel like, is to come over here. So what I did was, most of this data keeps changing, right? So that some countries go up and some countries go down based on the priority as to which are the countries that are having the most infected countries. So this one is more like a priority rather than a random list. And every time countries go up and down in this list, because it's automated, right? It's pulling from this Wikipedia link, and this place always keeps shuffling these countries based on which country is having the highest infection. So I saw that and I noticed. So first day I kind of put this thing in place, and then in the second day I started looking at trying to figure out, okay, how do I basically match this? So what I did is I copied this entire country base until the bottom, and I copy pasted it here on the right side, right? So I copy pasted it here, and then I gave it some conditional formatting saying that, okay, if United States is going, if this column, this cell is going to be the same color as this cell, or if the word is the same, then give it a green color. In case it's not the same, because this part is manual, whereas this part is automated. So I said that if this part is not the same, then just make sure that you are, that you don't color it green. And because I have put conditional formatting here, because this is possible in Google Sheets. I do not know if it's possible in Excel, but it's definitely possible in Google Sheets. And that's the power of Google Sheets. With Google Sheets, you can import data, you can import from different websites, you can just pull data like that. You can even do, like, for example, you can do Instagram followers. You can basically build, put up a code and just pull Instagram followers from different people. Obviously, there is a limit as to how many times you can do that particular activity. You can't do it like having more than 100 accounts and then pull that automatically. But if you're doing it for like 5-10 accounts, then you can actually do it. In most cases, it works, right? So there are codes for that, and you can actually monitor this. Like, I've done the same thing to actually pull data even when it comes to stock markets, right? So I'm able to pull live stock market data, at least a 15-minute delay, but it actually pulls all the data into my Google spreadsheet. And obviously there are a lot of tutorials out there on the internet that you can check when it comes to being able to pull data here. So that's basically what it is, and that's the whole idea on how I built a COVID tracker, and integrated that from Google Sheets to Google Data Studio. So I basically brought that from here. So that's the entire story. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. If you're looking for which link I used, I'm going to share that link as well, because that link is right over here. Okay, so this is the code that I first used to actually get it in Google Sheets. So I'll share that particular link in the description, and you can try it out for yourself as well. All right, great. So that's basically what I had to cover for today.